Hey guys, so yesterday I spoke to you guys about regarding this whole thing with the ADL of Elon Musk, and I went into how these people are part of what's called the Erev Rav, how ADL are not actually here to represent Jewish people. They're here to basically do what the Erev Rav have been doing since, I guess you want to say, time immemorial. Since, we left Egypt, maybe even before that. And when I say Egypt, I mean ancient Egypt. So, now what I want to tell you guys is, I told you about the ADL, but I didn't really get into, the origins of who these people are. And kind of the origins, not only of the ADL, of really those types of people who do everything to hurt primarily Israel, but also the Jewish people by extension. Excuse me. Basically, in modernity, guys, I mean, I'm not going to go all the way back to Har Sinai, or even before Har Sinai, before when Moses and the Jewish people left ancient Egypt. I mean, I mentioned that this is the entity that got us to do the golden calf. But now you guys may be saying, well, guys, sweet, the Torah narrative doesn't really resonate with me, and I can't really connect what happened in the Torah to what's happening today. Or, we can't really, not corroborate, but we can't really link directly, like genetically or whatever, family-wise, let's say, those people at that time to Jews in modernity, right? Since I guess there's a huge glare from this truck. So let's start with modernity. Modernity, we can start with Shabtai Tzvi. The episode of Shabtai Tzvi. We had a rabbi, Shabtai Tzvi, and pretty much the entire Jewish world, you're talking about the, I believe the 1600s, the early, mid-1600s, the entire Jewish world, the early 1600s, I'm sorry, basically, were convinced, without getting into too much details, he had this, Shabtai Tzvi had an impresario, Nathan of Gaza, right? So, he went around the Jewish world, basically convincing people that this guy is Mashiach, because he knew a lot of Torah, and he knew a lot of Kabbalah, right? And then convincing people that, the Torah and specifically Kabbalah, the secrets of the Torah, allow people to do all kinds of debauchery, sexual debauchery. And this debauchery is going to invoke powers, and this is what Hashem wants, and all these kind of things. It's going to bring Mashiach, right? We're gonna get the world to a point where it's so bad that we're going to bring Mashiach, right? During Shabtai Tzvi, I don't know if they were doing that so much. It was more just like debauchery, and this is a lot, right? It got to a point where people understood that he's not the Messiah. Well, some people did. Some people still held on to it. The story ended, as you guys know. Those of you who don't know, he ended up converting to Islam under the sword of the Sultan in the Ottoman Empire, and that was it. And that was a very big tragedy. And since then, basically, that's why people in the Orthodox world have kind of a trepidation, or they're very careful about learning Kabbalah, right? Because it can lead us to, places we don't necessarily want to go, right? We have to be very, very careful. After Shabtai Tzvi, you had this entity called the Frankists. Basically, similar idea. People who had Jewish names. Some people are halakhically Jewish. Some people had Jewish fathers. Some people had Jewish grandparents. The point was, European intelligentsia, again, spreading this debauched ideology, mixed in with Gnostic fruitcakery, all kinds of, as Frank and I like to say, Gnostic fruitcakery. And these people ended up, you're talking about from the late early 1700s through all the way up until the late 1800s, early 1900s. Some of these people got involved, actually, unfortunately, got involved in the communist movement, you know, the Bund, all these kind of things. Some of these people got involved in the founding of the State of Israel, in the beginnings of the fledgling, you know, late 1800s, early 1900s. Not to say that all the people were involved in the building of the State of Israel were that, but those people interloped. These Frankists and these other people interloped, and again started bringing in kind of the ideology that, you know, we want to found a state, but we want to get away from you know, religion as much as possible. At best, we want to have religion as like an ornament. You know, we want to allow ornamental religion, ornamental aspects of religion, right? Guys, I'm just giving you like a very right now basic primer, right? I'm zipping through it, right? I'll tell you why I'm zipping through it after I tell you one more point. Eventually, guys, this entity, you know, after they were kind of finished being involved in like the, you know, communist movements and all these other movements, and then the Shoah happened, right? I'm just gonna stop right there, okay? I'm not gonna I'm gonna stop short of like blaming Jews for the Shoah, but I'm just gonna say that, put it this way, some of that entity, those Frankists, were working with the Nazis, working with the SS, okay? And these are people who other people mistake for Jews. You know, they say, oh, the Zionists are working with the SS. There were interlopers in the Zionist movement that were working with the SS, called the Erev Rav, called these Frankists, right? Or the descendants of those Frankists, okay? I mentioned yesterday, guys, the Erev Rav are helpers of Amalek. If the Nazis are Amalek, the Erev Rav are helpers of Amalek, right? So now you fast forward, and now you get into these different organizations, the ADL, J Street, Council on Foreign Relations, all these other, there's too many to name, guys. And now we have a situation where every time we see any kind of, you know, negotiations, any kind of peace conferences, any kind of anything that looks like, even AIPAC, guys, which has been infiltrated, right? That looks like anything to do with the two-state solution, or I like to call it the two-state dissolution. This is the handiwork of this entity. It started from Shabtai Tzvi, went into the Frankists, went into the communist element, the Bund, all these things, and then what we see in front of us today, guys. I just zipped through, you know, 400 plus years of Jewish history, or history of the Erev Rav, right? This entity that I mentioned to you yesterday. What I will recommend, guys, is, I'm telling you, and Frank and I, we actually read excerpts of this book on our show, and we have to find, Frank is actually in the process, and I'm going to help him, by the way, in the process of just taking out those clips and making a series of these videos. We read from a book called To Eliminate the Opiate, both volumes, volume 1 and 2, by Rabbi Marvin Antelman. Rabbi Marvin Antelman was a genius. He was an Ilui. He was a scientist. He was a scholar. I suggest you guys look him up. He was one of the heads of an organization called NCSY. It's one of the biggest, you know, I guess now today they call it modern Orthodox youth organizations in America, probably the biggest. He was one of the heads back in, I guess, the 60s and 70s. I think he passed away in 2013. I think he was even interviewed by our friend, what's her name? Oh my God. Malka something. She's on Israel radio. So he was interviewed by Art Sheva, all these kind of people, and he passed away, unfortunately, 10 years ago. Guys, I suggest you pick up these books. They're available on Amazon. They're available in any, you know, online Jewish book. I think it's like Abe Books, ABE Books. Different, you know, Judaica stores online. They're available. You know, you hunt a little bit. You have to dig a little bit, but you'll find them, right? Amazon has volume 1 for sure. I think volume 2 as well. Guys, I'm telling you, read this book. Some of the stuff's a little, you know, kind of long-winded and dense. It gets really into the nitty-gritty and the wiring of who these people are. But guys, that's actually the point. That's actually the point. You really want to get into the wiring and understand who these entities are. Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible exposition of what we're dealing with today. And, you know, he wrote this book in the 90s, and he only went up to kind of like, you know, this is before the creation of J Street, actually ADL was mentioned in the book, because ADL's been around for a while, since 1913 or something like that. He mentions, you know, there's a few organizations that he just are not mentioned because you know, they weren't around yet. Peace Now, I'm pretty sure was not mentioned. Maybe this is the beginning of Peace Now's founding. New Israel Fund for sure is not there. But guys, you'll start to understand, based on the book, based on the types of people, types of personages that are mentioned in this book, you'll start to understand that there are organizations today who are basically the you know, children, the progenitors of those organizations, of those entities, and you'll start to understand their spiritual, where they're coming from spiritually, what they're coming to do. They're coming to take the Torah and either change it completely, you know, the Reform movement, even now today, the Conservative movement, Reconstructionists, or they're coming to completely take the Torah and completely throw it in the garbage, completely discard it or change it. Honestly, I don't really know what's worse, right? Sometimes it's worse to change something, right? To turn something into like a social justice, you know, like the Reform are doing today. Social justice, whatever, you know? Transgender, blah, 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 what have you. You know, the list goes on and on, guys. I don't have to tell you. So, yeah, guys, pick up this book, To Eliminate the Opiate by Rabbi Marvin Antelman. What is the opiate? Karl Marx, another famous Erev Rav, called religion, or in this particular case, it would be Torah, right? The opiate of the masses. So what do these people want to do? This entity, Erev Rav, they want to eliminate the opiate, the thing that they call the opiate. They want to just completely eliminate it. So the book, hence the title, To Eliminate the Opiate. So guys, pick it up, read it. We're going to compile all the moments very soon in our podcast where we read from the book, but because what happens is we read from it, but then every so often we do commentary on what's being spoken about there, and give you kind of color and kind of you know, what is it called, you know, just context for what's really going on and how it connects to what we see in front of us today. Anyway, guys, just wanted to run that by you, and it's kind of important because now we're about to unmask this entity. Ironically, again, I mentioned this before, I'm going to say it again, not the biggest fan of Elon Musk, for my own reasons, Frank as well, my friend Frank, but, you know, sometimes these kind of things happen from unexpected places, and the ADL, not just the ADL, but hopefully all these entities are going to be unmasked and revealed for who they truly are. I already see from some of the response on Twitter that people are catching on. They understand that these entities are not here to protect Jews or Israel or anything of the sort. They're here for Obama's agenda. That's what they're here for. They're here for literally Obama's agenda and George Soros' agenda. Why? Because they're being paid by them, okay, by Soros, and that's it. So, Zat Hashem, guys, it's all happening, you know? It's all happening. The timelines are coming together, and Zat Hashem, we're going to see good things very soon. All right.